not the Xbox Music, because I've got a subscription. It's having a look at what it would be like if you don't have the subscription.
Yeah, yeah.
And like with on the Xbox as well, like it lets you play 10 songs, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I've tried it on my kids one.
We need someone who hasn't got a subscription.
Yeah. Well, my kids haven't. So
that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kid testing's always good.
Well, I tried it today and it just started working. I thought, this works without any subscription, and then it said you need to buy it. Although we can talk about that because I think they're going to have to have a look at that, aren't they? Send the link out.
Joy's writing a book, Jace.
Yeah, sounds like a mammoth undertaking.
Yeah, the first chapter, it just kept going longer and longer and longer. I just kept adding more to it. I'll have to add this bit in, and it just it's getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
Right, so the link out. Okay, we're live. Jason and Gary, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. Welcome back.
Yes,
welcome back indeed.
Yes, thanks for hosting that last week. That was much appreciated.
Yeah, it's good fun as always.
Yeah, I enjoyed editing.
It's always good when the children left without adult supervision.
Yeah.
And you left me lots of little things to edit in just to make sure I was listening.
Absolutely, yeah. My memory failing me in numerous places.
Yeah, all seamlessly edited, so it doesn't sound too bad. No, it was a good show. I enjoyed listening to it. So.
Good. I do have one important question for you.
Yes.
I'm running Windows XP. Do I get this podcast for free?
Well, if you've got ME, then you do get it for free. If you've got Windows 95, then there's an ME upgrade option. If you go with Windows 98 SE, then you can definitely have it for free.
Yes. There's been some fun, hasn't there, over something so simple.
Yeah, so we better explain what's the background on this.
The background was initially a blog post by Gable discussing changes to the Windows 10 preview program, whereby they now need you to be signed in with a Microsoft account to maintain your link with the Insider program. It used to be if you wanted to, you could just use a local account not tied to your Microsoft account, and you'd still get the Insider build. Whereas as they switch to RTM, I guess they need some way of identifying who you are. And so the logical thing to do with that is the Microsoft account. They were very clear to explain that doesn't mean with the final, people upgrading to Windows 10 or buying it off the shelves. It doesn't mean you have to have a Microsoft account. It's purely just to pick up a token that means you'll stay in the Insider program if you want to. And then there was also some discussion around, that Windows Insiders would receive the release to manufacturing version of Windows 10, which would be delivered as just another flight. And then if you wanted to, you could choose to remain in the program, or you could choose to opt out at that point, and you would still, regardless of what your choice was, you would still maintain your license of Windows 10, which suddenly lots of people stood up and took notice and thought this was the gates to hell being opened up. And anybody that wanted to could quickly opt into the Insiders program, download the latest ISO, get the release to manufacturing version, and then opt back out the Insider program, and wonderfully they'd have an activated Windows 10 license that for the duration of that device for free, even regardless of whether or not they're entitled to it. And I think basically after that the asylum doors were unlocked and everyone went absolutely berserk. I think possibly the only voice in the light of his reason was Ed Bott. I think, as always, he very calmly clearly stated that at the end of the day there's 2% of Windows licenses are really consumer based. Of that, a tiny minority of those are in the Insiders program, and ultimately it's kind of was a nice thank you for being a part of the program. If you want to opt out, it's fine. But as Ed Bott, as and many others, including myself, keep highlighting, just because you can activate a license of Windows doesn't mean that it's genuine. There's always been ways to circumvent activation ever since the days of XP. I know, I think in the Vista days there was like a rootkit you could install that loaded up a dummy virus.
Right.
Yeah.
like
Freudian slip there. Yeah. A virtual BIOS that meant the software thought you were running an Acer or whatever it was machine, and that BIOS automatically activated the software. So, there's always been ways to do this, and even the days of before activation, you were only supposed to install a copy of Windows on a single PC, but there was nothing to stop you installing it wherever you wanted. But that didn't make it legal, and it didn't make it genuine. And also, as again Edbot, prompt to highlight that the actual number of people that buy Windows is so finite. Even of that 2%, the number that actually buy Windows is so small. People just buy on a PC, and we've talked, that's the real challenge. Normally, apart from friends and family of people like us, they don't upgrade their operating system, and so this is a big ask for Windows 8 and Windows 7 to prompt people to upgrade to a new operating system that they potentially have no clue what they're buying into. So I think it's a shame. I think they've now edited that post to make it clear that while you can opt out of the Insiders program, if you did a clean installation, that license will eventually expire, because you're basically running a kind of preview version. Sorry, not preview, but like a demo trial license. If you this still isn't perfectly clear, but if you had Windows 8, for example, and upgraded through the various flights of the Insider program and get RTM, and then opt out of the Insiders program, you'll still stay genuine, because there's that genuine, it's got that link back through your genuine license. But I just think it would have been quite a nice nod, a nice thank you that, here's a free license of Windows 10, because at the end of the day, for that 2%, it's from my perspective, it's far more important for Microsoft to get people on Windows 10 than it is to make a few quid out of it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they really want to get as many people as they can on Windows 10, and like you said, for a very small amount of people, then they could have just made it very simple.
Yes, yeah, and I think it's like most of these things. I think sometimes we're so there's so many sites out there that are so quick to pounce on this thing and advertise here's your way to get Windows 10 for free, that it kind of prompts Microsoft to close that door.
Yeah.
And I think the original intention was for it to be a nice thank you.
Yeah, and then the lawyers have seen the blog post titles "How to Get Windows for Free," then it all has to get pulled and reviewed and clarified.
Yeah, and like I say, even that edited post actually even makes things more complicated, because it doesn't clearly state that that whether or not you did have Windows 8 and have upgraded through various flights to RTM, that you'll still be entitled, it'll still be a valid license. And also, something that I've been kind of saying on Twitter today is that, for example, a Surface, you can't buy that bare bones. You can't buy it without a valid license. So even if I do a clean install of Windows 10, then I would expect that the BIOS or the UEFI BIOS would just activate that license, because it can't be anything but genuine.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, it's interesting that sort of that concept of tying a Microsoft account to the to Windows as well, isn't it? That I can imagine if they said ever made that compulsory, there'd be a lot of outrage, and you can't do that. But that's exactly what you can do, isn't it? With an iOS device, I don't think you can do anything without having an iTunes account. I think that's the very first thing it asks you when you sign in.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think there is any way to use it without one.
Yeah, just different levels of expectations, I suppose.
Yeah. But I mean, it certainly does, say some ways it makes things more simple, it makes things more complicated, because my initial idea is that with my Surface, once I get the RTM build, I'll probably opt out of the Insider program on there, because once I've got a stable build, I'll probably want to keep it that way. But what I'll probably do, because I still want to be a part of the Insiders program, would be to, spin up a virtual machine and get access to the early and provide feedback, and obviously, discuss it with you guys on the podcast. What's coming down the pipe.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say, it's all very confusing, but not too dissimilar to what happened with the Windows 7
no
beta program. So I'm sure they'll sort it out.
Yes. Then do you remember the with the Windows 7 how to use an upgrade license to do a clean install?
Yes.
And so you could use an upgrade license to do a clean installation, which had the option you didn't enter the key. So sorry, it's taking a step back. So if you bought an upgrade disk, you couldn't do a clean install because when you used your key, it said, sorry, you need an existing license in place. So what you could do was install Windows 7 clean without a key, and then do an in-place upgrade, which the upgrade went, oh, you're doing an upgrade. Yes, you can use an upgrade key. And that went viral pretty quickly, didn't it? It was like, here's how to use an upgrade license that costs half the price to do a clean installation. And again, yes, it'll work. Yes, it will activate, but it doesn't mean it's a legal license.
Yeah, it's I think people like to make things complicated, and all the websites like to do a story about it, and I think it makes it probably more complicated than it needs to, and Microsoft have to go clarifying it, and they love to clarify things by making things more complicated as well.
yes. Clarification by making the waters muddier.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a clarification from Microsoft make the situations clearer.
It's like a muddy puddle, isn't it? The more you stamp around in it, the more it gets muddier. You have to take a step back and let it clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, anyway, well, we're still waiting for a new flight, which I thought was today, Ian, by the way. At least it gave us something to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was. And where is this new build then?
Yes, interesting enough, it still doesn't seem to be forthcoming. I think it's been, what is it, 3 weeks now? Is it almost 4 weeks?
Yeah.
It's the last flight, which seems a massive amount of time, especially since this thing should be getting pretty locked down by now. I mean, I still suspect they had specific calendar dates that they wanted to hit in terms of insider builds. It isn't a case of they just release them as and when they're stable enough. But I do wonder whether or not this discussion over the weekend has kind of put back that build, and also I guess maybe they've had to take a step back and re-engineer this whole process to allow for the linking through the Microsoft account. But I certainly hope that we'd see something by now.
Now, I actually remember, was it last week or the week before? I think Gable said that the next release would have the Spartan browser, then the one after that would be renamed Edge. But then in a post last week, they said the next release will have Edge branding on it, and you've got to back up your settings if you want to keep them. So maybe we've skipped a build.
It does sound like we've skipped a build.
Yeah, I think so.
I've heard as well, which may make sense. I mean, part of the problem, having run a few fairly major development projects, is that as you get close to the end, you're inundated with data, and you're trying to sort the wheat from the chaff and actually work out what bits you really should be working on, which bits you shouldn't be working on. And it's sometimes actually better not to release things until you've sort of pruned that down to a manageable level, so you can then take the next influx of data. I think that we had this discussion the other week about why they may have actually put the slow build on the same build as the fast build, and I think that was partly that, to try and get rid of all that old slow build data which was coming in. So I think there may be some of that going on, and I think what we'll see is probably a fairly close to RTM build the next time. Probably with all the final UI tweaks, probably as stable as they can make it, which does need to be more stable than it currently is.
I mean, there you go. See, there's another perfect example of something that should be perfectly clear and just confuses matters. So, in that blog post where they mentioned that Project Spartan is going to become the final Microsoft Edge, and with that comes a new app ID. So it's not an upgrade of the application; it's a clean app ID. And then they mentioned about making sure you back at your favorites. Now, Windows 8 era, your favorites are linked and synchronized to your Microsoft account without any intervention. So does that mean we're losing favorites synchronization? That would seem to be a step back compared to Chrome and Firefox. And
that'd be a huge step back. And I think also it'll be a major problem for them if that happens on upgrade. I think that will be the amount of bad publicity they get from that. If people lost their favourites and particularly lost their passwords. A lot of people store their passwords in Internet Explorer and don't have them anywhere else. I think that could be a major issue for them if they don't somehow find a way of porting your favourites and things from your previous installation.
because i11 is still there in the background, so in theory that synchronization method's still there, but it just seemed an odd thing to highlight if that data synchronized to your Microsoft account. And maybe, again, it's talking about people that aren't have all the synchronization turned off, but it's again such a simple point.
That's a bit strange when you mentioned that. I just had a look on this on Core 8, which was installed a few times from a clean install. So it was a Windows 8.1 originally, but at some point it stopped working. I did a clean install from the ISO. So it's never had 8.1 on us really. But to just go on to the favorites, all my favorites are there, exactly as they are on my other devices. Now I'm just having a look. I added one today, so I wonder whether that's gone on there. Doesn't look like it has synced up today, but it's definitely got synced up at some point in the last. So it's got these from somewhere. Now, whether it's pulled them in from Internet Explorer and Internet Explorer's synced them, maybe that's where they've come from.
Yeah, but as I say, I mean that would be a big step backwards. That's what all modern browsers do. It's you log in. And there used to be, in IE11 on Windows 8, there was a way that you could open up pages that were a bit left open on different devices. Yeah, which again is, it's a really useful thing. I mean, going back to Windows 7 days, I used to use Windows Live Mesh to synchronize my favorites. I used to relocate my user favorites folder. Does that mean I need to go back to doing that through OneDrive? It's it's such a simple point, but it just makes such confusion.
Well, it wouldn't be the only step backwards we've had.
Yes.
So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, at least we can print from mail now.
Yes. I did download that leaked build and installed it into a VM. And while I haven't used it in anger, I did have spend about 15, maybe half an hour playing around with it. And wow, it's really stable compared to where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
It's real kind of all the fit and finish is there, so and that's kind of made me crave a new build or a new official build all the more.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna be long. I really don't. Just looking at the schedule, I think I would be surprised if we don't see one by the time this program actually is published.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And then of course there's a question of how many more do you think we'll see? I mean, Ian, you did that poll and I think I went for 3, but I mean now I think they're going to struggle to. I mean, we should definitely see one more, but is there going to be 2 more? And it would be really nice if we got the RTM build a week before 1st of July, 29th of July, but they've said that's not going to happen either.
No, I think I always thought we might get one this week. I thought we might get one today. May still well do, but anyway, the only reason why you don't want it today is so that I wouldn't gloat anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think I was right all along. I think it'll be Thursday.
I don't remember you saying that. I think Thursday was my original.
Yeah.
Did I say Thursday? I'm sure.
It was Thursday last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you missed last week's show, so it must have been the week before, and you said next Thursday. So.
I think actually what I said was that the day their next release flight will be the day they release a flight. I think that's what I said.
Yeah. I think it was Richard Hay who was being really optimistic and saying, "Well, maybe they'll do it on last Friday."
Yeah. Richard, I mean, laughing out loud. He was analysing, time zones of when Gable said no build tomorrow. Smiley face. Well, that was actually classified as Saturday morning based on time zone.
Yeah.
They don't normally do builds on a Saturday, so actually we might still get one today.
Yeah. Well, that was a bit optimistic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then I mean that. Actually, we keep going about this, but in the past we've talked about Microsoft putting these blog posts out on a Friday afternoon, and that was definitely another one of those blog posts on a Friday afternoon. Then everyone goes home.
Yeah. So we may get one this week, and maybe
we've got to get one this week, surely. I mean, they promised us. We should talk about this because you weren't here last week, Ian, but. They promised us an updated Windows Mobile build that fixed the upgrade from 1.0080, didn't they, this week?
Yes, I suppose. Yes, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
I mean, not a direct promise, but he certainly said, we should. Do you want to wait one more week
Yeah.
Or should we release this thing now?
I read that as saying, do you want to wait 1 week for a new build, or you'll get this one now and you won't get one next week? That's the way I kind of read it.
Yeah, I think there was a few tweets from him in response to people saying, no, we should be, the next build should be upgradable from 1.0.0.8 if you want to hang on, and it shouldn't be too long. And I noticed, I think in some ways the negative fallout from this is I think Gabe does seem to have gone a bit more quiet on Twitter now. Whether or not that's because they're so busy, or he certainly seems to have stopped interacting in terms of including build numbers, or we've got this build in the Windows group that looks quite good. He's certainly taking a step back from that kind of talk.
Yeah, and every tweet, he must be very difficult now, because for every single tweet he does, it gets super analysed, aren't they? But,
yeah.
People look at time zones and things. It's a lot of scrutiny to put on 140 characters.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But I'd like to see a new PC build this week. Definitely. This Encore is actually working quite well now. Explorer's not crashing as much. The notifications come on now. There's still bits and pieces like the on-screen keyboard in tablet mode comes on sometimes, not always. There's still bits and pieces like that, and there's one or two little things. No pin password. That really annoys me on this tablet. You don't want to be typing a long password out on a touchscreen. So I've got a picture password, but it's not very, very good, that. But so there's still lots of things that I'd like to see fixed. But yeah, this Encore is looking a lot better now. But as on the phone, so you mentioned, you talked about the build that was released last week, but have you either of you tried the phone build?
I haven't. My son's Lumia has gone back to stock Windows 8.1. So I'm going to wait until I think they're a lot closer to release before I actually put them on anything.
Yeah, Gary, have you played around with this new build?
Very, very briefly. I had similar problems to you, actually, where the settings menu wouldn't kick in on the initial one. I mean, I have to say, what I did play with it, I bunged it on the 1020, and it seemed to work a lot better than the previous build.
Yeah. Well, so I put it on this 630, and obviously I read the post, and they said that you need to be back on Windows Phone 8.1. So I reset it back to the 8.1 factory image. Installed the update as it said, left it because it said it'll stick on the lock screen while it finishes off the update. It was sort of a bug. So I left it, and it took a good 10 minutes or so. And then half the apps didn't work, but the worst problem with the settings didn't work. So you couldn't even do a PC a refresh on it. So it couldn't even get the Wi-Fi on because you couldn't get to the Wi-Fi settings. So very, very frustrated. There's nothing I could do with it, so I had to do another 8.1 image on it again, which I did. Then did the upgrade again, and that worked. And then it still had problems with some of the apps, so I did a refresh on it, and that worked then. So that's where I'm on now.
Similar process I had to go through to get it to work anywhere near working. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's challenging to get it going, but I did feel it was actually working a bit better than
yes, it's definitely a lot faster.
Yeah, definitely faster. They seem to tweak that. That was one of my big complaints before. It was almost unusable on speed, and it does seem to be working well now. I
know. I tell you why I had to do a reset on it, even though once I got it working, it started chewing up the apps. So the music and Skype and Spartan browser and other things worked, and then they would stop working, and then they wouldn't work anymore, and there was no way to fix them. So I did a refresh, and since then, it's been okay. Actually, there are a few apps that won't install. It's like a list now of 9 apps in the beta store. When you go and look at your downloads, there's about 9 or 10 items on there now that won't install. It's sort of a growing list. So, but they're all things like the Nokia account and settings, and here Maps is one of them. There's a few. I can't think of the other one. I'm trying to load it up, but it's just crashed the store. But yeah, there's a few of these apps that won't install it, and it just says retry later when you go into them. So this list is growing, but the main apps are all working okay. So I think it's to do with the app compatibility with the new store, I guess. It's something like that. But the other things are working, and the music app has been updated. There's still some things not implemented in the music app. They've got I suppose, a bit longer to get to do this, haven't they? Because of the release dates on it.
Yeah.
You can't use the Explorer or the radio, or there's quite a few bits and pieces. It just says like coming soon. Radio is one of them, Xbox Music Radio, and the Explorer option. They just say, look here for a future update, and it seems to re-index all the music every time as well, rather than that sort of caching it. But no, it's definitely looking better. The story's probably the worst part. Mixed radio, extras info, network plus, here maps, Nokia account, app social. None of them they're all got sort of try that again options, but everything else is working. So it's definitely a lot better. It actually feels like a usable build. I won't put it on my main phone, but I actually think I could just about live with it now. It's not randomly rebooting anymore either.
Yeah, just from all the coverage I read, it does seem that it did present, quite a big step forward over the previous builds. Obviously, I know you had quite a few problems getting it working in the first place, but it does feel like it's a step forward. And I wonder if that's because the underlying operating system is also kind of moving forward.
Yes, it could be. And one thing I mentioned, I don't know, I don't know whether I mentioned it or whether you mentioned this on the show. I can't remember. About the Wi-Fi is now a toggle button.
Yes. Yeah. That's going to really annoy me.
But if you long press on it, it takes you to the settings.
Right. Okay. But that's about discoverability, though, isn't it? That's the only downside to that. You've got to discover that that's actually how it works.
Yeah. But I was, because I did a video of it, and I did moan in the video that I didn't like the way that, and quite a few people commented and said, well, just long press on it, and then it.
So actually, that's something that is in that leaked desktop build. If you right mouse click over the notification center, the buttons, you actually get a menu pop up. So I wonder if that's kind of very similar functionality.
Right. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And I think that new build, that leak build, had, I think the tablet mode was supposed to work a lot better, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I had it in a VM, so I couldn't test that. But yeah, it just seemed a lot more stable. But I mean, it's certainly good to see the phone build moving forward. I think Gabe, didn't he? He said on Twitter that in terms of speed and response of app startup times aren't quite where they want them to be, but it certainly he said the overall system performance was a lot better.
It definitely seemed to be.
I mean, it seems to be both the PC and phone build seem to be coming on quite nicely. The only concern is really, I suppose, from the PC side, is they can get all these minor bugs out of the way by July 29th, and yeah, things like on some apps you would swipe down if you're in tablet mode to bring up if they're a Windows 8.1 app and they say you want the settings or something like that, you swipe down. That just doesn't work in the current build, and things like that. They just need to get these little things out of the way. And I think what did on the leak build they've moved some of the start menu things around a little bit again.
They've so in tablet mode they've reintroduced an all apps button by default. So before you had to tap the hamburger menu and then move you to the bottom of the screen and press the all apps, whereas now that all apps button is permanently there. I think Josh still isn't happy, but I think for most people it certainly to show that they're either learning from their own mistakes or they're hearing the feedback that that's so ridiculous having to tap the hamburger menu just to get to all apps.
Yeah, I mean, I could see us end up with a swipe up there anyway, but I think the discoverability there is better. Potentially,
yes,
it was for people who haven't learned the Windows 8.1 way. I guess my problem with the build is just the reliability of the store apps. Virtually every store app I use crashes.
Yes, yeah, I certainly have some. The other thing I have store apps just automatically starting up. They would just suddenly appear on the taskbar.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned last week.
Yeah, and I've got the Windows feedback app open. I've got OneNote open, and I haven't started those. Whether or not it's background tasks triggering them or quite what. But I think, certainly they've been iterating the calendar and mail apps quite quickly over the last couple of weeks, and I think it would be good. My real core apps are kind of Tweetium and Next Gen Reader. It would be good to get some native Windows 10 version of those. I think that would be a big step forward.
Yeah, I think the mail app's definitely improved a lot. I have had quite a few occasions now where I've got emails with attachments which I can't see. And I think they had people. I've actually mailed people saying, "You haven't sent me the attachment." I said, "Yes, we have." And then I've looked in the webmail version of the attachments.
Gary, I think your mic's gone a bit.
Ooh, what's happened to my mic? That's interesting.
Falling off your head.
My mic, well, it actually is falling off the side of my headphones. I'm going to hold it in place. So is that better?
That sounds better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say the I've had mail come through which should have had attachments, and they weren't there, and they definitely were there on the webmail. So that's a bit worrying.
Yeah, it's just like the other thing I find with the mail application is it will keep popping up saying I need to fix my account credentials.
Yeah, a lot of people have been having that.
Yeah.
The other one I find is that occasionally I'll just go. You go into mail and it'll leap into the first mail rather than showing you the list.
Right.
Oh, right.
And the other thing I've had quite a lot is I'll go into mail on an account which I have synced, and it will just be blank and it says awaiting sync. So I think there's still a few issues there, but it's definitely way better than it was.
Yeah.
It's not working for me at all at the moment.
Maybe it's not that much better than it was then.
Yeah, I can't see any mail in my thing, and if you try and the Windows account, the Microsoft account is already set up, but it doesn't show any mail. And if I add mail, it comes up with a 0x8 something error. So it's not playing at all. It was working at one stage. I think it was since the last update. So there's probably a way of clearing the cache out or something like that somewhere.
Yeah, sounds like it. Maybe a clean update will clean install to get rid of that.
Yeah.
The other thing I did notice on the apps generally is occasionally I'll just get a blank window appear.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that, particularly switching between tablet mode and non-tablet. It
And
really messes the apps.
Yeah, you just can't get rid of things. But I mean, generally.
Generally, Skype's working quite well.
I don't know if you must have heard this when you were editing last week's show, but every time you minimise Skype, it
yes, if I remember you saying, I think it was Gary, wasn't it? He said, "I'm going to try minimising it and see what it does," and it crashed.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm actually using the desktop version of Skype again now since they've announced the retirement of Modern App. Did you minimise Skype, Gary?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, as we discussed last week.
Yeah, it was free editing last week. I said, I'm going to minimise this now and see what it does. Boom.
But even resizing it does it. I was just trying to move it out of the way actually, rather than minimise it.
That must be why they're getting rid of it.
Yeah, must be. I think I better download the desktop version.
Yeah.
I actually got an email after last week's show saying we've noticed that you signed into both the modern application and the desktop application, so we just wanted to let you know that one of these is going away.
Oh, did you? Right. I didn't get that, even though I have used it in the past, although I'm on the desktop one now to do the recording.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually, that was another really good example of Microsoft not really communicating the message very well, wasn't it? When they announced they were pulling the modern version, and everybody said, "Oh, what's Microsoft doing? They're supposed to be promoting modern apps, and yet they're pulling it and going back to desktop." But it's not really that, is it? It's just that I don't think the universal individual Skype apps are ready, are they? I think they're breaking it out, aren't they, into separate components.
Yeah, as I said last week, I still think it's a non-story effectively.
Yeah.
So.
I think. I mean, they've said, haven't they, that unfortunately they won't be ready for the Windows 10 launch. But ultimately, as you said, in those apps, the functionality is going to be broken out into messaging, voice chat, and video chat. And we've seen demonstrations where I guess that's going to be quite closely integrated into the operating system, which kind of makes sense. But it was frustrating for me about one, it was communicated, and then it was like, and this is all happening on the 7th of July. I just, I still don't understand the necessity to do it quite so quickly. But the key thing that they overlooked in that, yes, the desktop version is more easy to use with a mouse and keyboard, and that's normally the type of interaction you do for a complex application. But it means we've got no push notifications and no live tile. So I think it's two real big losses, and yes, maybe those will come back in the future. But I did think it was funny how they mentioned how the desktop application is touch friendly. But so what was that?
That's how I Skype beyond the grave.
That was a notification in my ear. I think, it's how likely are you to recommend this build? How likely are you to recommend Internet Explorer to a friend or colleague? Thanks, Microsoft. I mean, yeah, it's they call Office 2013 touch friendly, but it's not really, is it? Let's be honest.
And also, I guess, does the desktop version, when you get messages, does that integrate with Action Center?
On the desktop one, no, I don't think it does actually.
So you wouldn't get them showing up in Action Center with all your other notifications?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, which is a shame. But like you said, it's a temporary thing, though, isn't it? But I don't see why. Like you said, though, why not keep the modern version around until the new ones are ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least have a grace period. You'd think, get everybody onto Windows 10, and then, or I mean, I guess maybe that's it, isn't it? With the, Windows 8 hasn't necessarily made a massive influx in terms of install base, so maybe they wanted to get rid of it now before, a mass market get used to using it potentially.
Yeah. Just what's the hurry? Maybe there's an API change or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, certainly for me, they've not been the most stable applications, so I don't think I'll cry too much at their loss. But one of the things that Gary and I talked about last week was 7th of July is really sudden, and yet they've still got to support it on Windows RT anyway. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they like to make things interesting for themselves.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So one question I did want to ask you, actually, rolling back a bit. So obviously you've used the 10136 build on Windows 10 for phones. Do you reckon you've got a gut feel from that of how long you think they'll be to a relatively stable build you think you'd want to use daily?
I think it's fairly close. I would say it feels perhaps 2 or 3 builds behind the desktop version. Up until this last build, I would say they were light years behind the desktop version. But this last one has closed the gap a bit now, and there's got the store issues which I've mentioned, and some of the apps crashing, and then and the upgrade issues and things like that. So I think that obviously they need to sort those things out. But it's actually not bad. I think it's it's certainly not. I think the rumor is sort of September, October, isn't it? I think they'll be fine for then. Things like Spartan and everything, they work fine. Yet sometimes I'll be using it and it'll just shut down. But it's not all the time, and so it is usable. And the Xbox, the Xbox app works, and the Maps app. So it more or less everything works apart from these minor issues and the store issues. It's still a bit on the sluggish side, I think, but it's certainly not a disaster. The last one was pretty awful to use, but this one is much more stable. So I think October is likely is probably a realistic time frame if they can get the desktop. I think to me the desktop one is the more worrying with the July 29th.
Yeah, I do think that's why it's so frustrating that we haven't got a new build. I do think we're going to see a massive step forward in terms of that stability. I just wish they'd get it in our hands.
I am starting, because I'm using this tablet a lot now. I am starting to get that feeling that you get when you go back onto an old OS. So when I'm using the Surface now and I'm using my desktop machine, it's surprising that actually Windows 8.1 is starting to look a little bit old-fashioned compared to Windows 10. It's funny, isn't it, how quickly it's like when you go back to a Windows 7 machine. It feels like, gosh, this is a blast from the past. And I like the new start menu. I've got a VM with it running in the desktop mode, and on a desktop mode it works really well. And just the things like the modern apps that work, the universal apps working in a window, just it's such a big improvement from Windows 8.1 on a laptop, where really on my laptop at work I have no issues with 8.1 on it, but I don't really use any modern apps at all, apart from I occasionally use my Flickr app to upload something, but even that's a bit of a pain because it goes full screen. So I think it will make it a lot more usable for a laptop. I think it's going to see a big difference. But even on this tablet, I've got quite used to it, and yeah, I quite like. And we're going to go on to my other Lynx tablet that's running Windows 8.1. It just feels a little bit old-fashioned. It's almost, yeah. I know there's not a lot in it, but I'm just starting to get used to how things work, I think, and I actually got like this. And I know some people like Bart Bowman don't like the up and down scroll, and they like left to right scroll. But that's just, I think, a philosophy. And once you get used to that, then that's fine. I mean, if you look at the new Xbox experience, that's up and down, isn't it, instead of left and right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that looks quite interesting.
Yeah, the phones are up and down. Now Windows 10 is up and down. So I think you get used to it.
Yes, yeah, I think so too.
So yeah, I want to get. Oh, is that Gary?
I'm back.
Oh, now you're gone.
I switched from Windows Store to desktop version.
Very wise.
So, yeah, just like Microsoft.
Yes, like Microsoft. Yeah, it seems so. Interesting.
Sorry, go on, Gary.
It was interesting. I did actually have a notification just pop up there, so I don't know if that was anything to do with it. No, it wasn't.
Had a couple of responses. We talked about Ellen Kilborn last week on the show, but I had a couple of extra responses that I think worth sharing, because I was kind of asking her about feedback regarding Xbox Music on Sonos, and also ultraviolet support with Xbox Video, and her two responses were pretty much basically, yes, we do hear that loud and clear. Obviously that's no commitment to implement it, but it would be really good to see Xbox Music on Sonos, and it'd be really good to see ultraviolet support within Xbox Video.
Yeah.
So I think, particularly with the Xbox Video and ultraviolet, I think that's so important, because Google supports various different Locker services and Flicks to do, and all their competitors do. So I think it's important that they do as well.
Yeah, it would give them an edge if they did that. It really would.
Yeah, as long as they don't implement that before I've written a chapter on video, or they don't do it just afterwards or something.
When I read about that they've integrated Sonos support, that'll be music to my ears.
Oh, yeah. Of course, with OneDrive as well. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for me, even OneDrive integration in Sonos would be sufficient.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily even need to be Xbox Music, does it? It could just be a OneDrive.
No, I mean, particularly when you've got the old Nokia Mix Music, was it? I probably got the name wrong, but
yeah, Mix Music.
Yeah, even that's on Sonos, so that must be tiny compared to most of the other services out there.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time with Xbox Music recently, and it's a really good service actually. I think there's a few things that they need to do to it to really polish it up, and that is one of the things. Make it available for Sonos, I think, because that's people who are passionate about music. That's that they generally, those are the Sonos users, and they want access to all that music. So OneDrive, and I've got a Music Pass, so why can't I just do it from? Why can't I have all my Music Pass on there? It's too complicated to do at the moment. So yeah, I think they should do. In fact, talking about Xbox Music as well, as I've been working on this, did you see today that this is US only, but Google have announced free streaming, ad-supported streaming for Google Play Music?
Yeah,
I did see that. Yes.
So what that basically means, I think, for them is that they've got the ad-supported streaming service. So you can't download it, but you can just listen to it with ads. So kind of like Spotify, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Apple are introducing that with Apple Music, and that's what Microsoft had when Windows 8 launched.
Yes, yeah. Initially, you had a number of hours. Was it 10 hours of free streaming, and then it went into like ad-supported mode, which I never experienced. So I don't know what the ads were like.
No, never did I. No. Maybe that's why they canned it, but so that really leaves Microsoft as the only music service provider without some kind of free streaming option, although they do have the OneDrive option.
Yeah.
So do you think that we might see the return of that?
Yeah, I think I mean it would be interesting. I don't know if you've read anything, but I've certainly never seen any numbers in terms of Xbox Music subscribers, and I just wonder how how big it is. And I think they were talking, even mentioned on Windows Weekly the other week, you know, actually, does Microsoft actually need to have a video and music service? You know, my answer would, from my own perspective, is that I think they need to. You know, you've got Google has got their own services, Apple have got their own services. So I don't think it's necessarily a choice of whether or not they should or shouldn't. I think they need to have something. And if they've got to have something, it's got to be competitive.
Yeah, and they do need to have something, and they have got a good service. The OneDrive integration, I think, is really good. You know, I've been playing about with Xbox Music, and I've got 635, and all my music from OneDrive is on there. You know, it's not actually on here, but I can access it, and I can download tracks if I need to. And you know, I think it works so well. I just think they just need to make a bigger deal out of it. And I don't know why they don't start. I think we've already said on the Xbox Gold subscribers, you know, give them that. Even if you have to reduce the price of, you know, technically you're reducing the price of the Xbox Gold subscription and adding in back on the, you know, the price of the music subscription, so that all the various parties get paid and everything else. But I just think it would be a big deal if you said you get Xbox Live Gold, now you've got access to all this music, because there's loads of Xbox Live Gold customers.
Yes, yeah. I mean, what was it? I think the last figures I saw was something like 50 million, I think it was.
Yeah, and by that in one move, Microsoft would effectively get, you know, 50 million Xbox Music subscribers. Okay, not everybody will take it up, but it would be a really good way of boosting the service. And I think it's a good service. It just needs a bit of polish, like we said with Sonos and some other things. I mean, they've got the new apps coming out for Android and iOS, so you can have your OneDrive integration with that, so you don't need a Music Pass subscription. But I don't know when they've not announced dates. They just said they're going to do that. But
yeah, I mean, you know, I've said the Xbox music app on the Xbox One works really well. You know, the way it flicks between, you know, if there's a video to go with the song, it will play the video, and you know, we use that really as a kind of backdoor to getting it playing across the Sonos, because we've got the soundbar. So it means I can stick the TV through the speaker, and then we can get Xbox Music playing around the house. The downside is it means the TV's on. But yeah, I mean, you know, from that perspective, it's a great service. You know, it's certainly not the features. I think it's really about, you know, as it always is, whatever music contracts they've got in place to have the right songs on there, but also, you know, just about, you know, making it accessible.
Yeah. I think it's a good service. It just needs a bit of polish and a few features, which they do seem to be actively working on. You mentioned that sort of some people met team, and Gary, you met, was it Ellen?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they seem very passionate about it as well.
Yeah. Ellen's incredibly passionate about it.
Yes, I get that impression from Twitter. So yeah,
I just think they just need to get it to more people, and giving it to. I know they can't give it free because of all the various, you know, the various issues with rights holders and all that. You know, it's a very muddy area, but they certainly, it maybe, you know, why not go back to the ad-supported one and give it free to everybody with an Xbox One or something? You know, just make a big splash and do something with it to really push it over the top.
You know what they really need? What they need is the service available on 1 billion devices.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's there, and how many people are going to discover it? I really don't know. I mean, how many people are going to try, you know, run Windows Media Player and just use it? In fact, is Windows Media Player even included in the Windows 10 builds? I'm not even sure if it is.
It is, I think.
Yeah, it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's still there. Good old Windows Media Player.
I mean, yeah, how old is that?
Those are the days waiting for new versions of that to come out. Hasn't been updated, what, since Windows 7 now?
Yeah.
Maybe even Vista, actually.
Yeah. It has been slightly
bring back the Zoom player. Bring back the Zoom player.
It has been slightly updated. Have you noticed if you right-click a track now, you get cast to device in the menu? I know it's on Explorer as well.
Yes.
I didn't see. I've just loaded the app. Yep, there it is with the old shiny buttons. Yeah.
Yeah, if you right-click a track, you get cast to device, and it actually works as well. So that's like the old Play 2, I guess. But
there you go. Yeah, cast to device. Yeah, Xbox.
Yeah,
it's Play 2, isn't it?
Yeah. So I guess they've
rebranded Play 2.
They've rebranded it as cast, which makes a lot of sense because that's what people now think of I mean, Google obviously made that brand there, but they couldn't trademark that term. So,
yeah, make note to self to change content settings. It's not Play 2 anymore, is it? That's a relatively recent change, isn't it?
it is. I think it was the last build.
Yeah.
But it's also in the File Explorer as well. If you click on anything in the File Explorer, you get that as an
Yeah.
option.
I also noticed.
I wonder if the Sonos device is now supported, because it used to be that they weren't licensed. They didn't have the Play Ready license or the Play 2 license. I won't try that now, otherwise I'll be end up with music blasting out around the house.
Yeah, I can't. The network range up here is not quite reaching to the one that's got the Sonos on. So I'll try it in a set. If I can get on that network, I'll try it.
It works with the streamer I've got here, which is not a Play 2 ready device. So I'm assuming it would.
I'll try it. I won't actually play any music because I'll find everybody downstairs where it starts blasting out music. But I'll see if it's a target. Certainly, the Xbox shows up as a target.
Yeah,
and that works quite well actually. And I noticed the Xbox Video and Xbox Music both support casting directly from the music player itself, from the now playing screen.
Yep. So good.
Yeah. I'll try that while we're talking. So, yeah. So I think it's interesting to see whether Microsoft feel the need to compete with the free music service, or whether they just continue as they are. I guess it's not something you can quickly do, is it? The rights are just the rights on these things. It must be a minefield, and video is just the same, isn't it?
Yeah. The rights is always going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Gary, you did a blog post about a nice little PC that would be quite good for Windows 10.
Yeah, so this is it's if I can find the post. So this is the Modicom free PC, or Modcom free PC, which is basically one of these Intel stick design things for plugging your HDMI port and plugging USB plug in to power it. So it's the typical quad-core Atom processor. Now I had quite an interesting exchange on Twitter today, which I'll just bring up so I can remind myself of the gentleman who was conversing with me, basically saying this is almost an exact clone of a Chinese model which is available on eBay for about £79. So you really pays your money and takes your choice. You can have a version which is supported in the UK for about £130 off Amazon, which comes with a legal license of Windows 8 and the Office 365 trial. I think it's a year. I have to double check if it's a year trial or not. But so this is basically it comes with 16 gig internal storage, micro SD card, which the specs is only supports up to 32 gigs, but I'm sure it's a standard SDHC and would go as big as they would go. Bluetooth 4, and obviously the quad core, not your grandfather's Atom. So it's basically the compute stick spec. But at a reasonable price. I mean, 130 quid is not bad, and that's going to be fully supported in the UK. But obviously, you have got this ability if you wanted to go off and buy the version which is available on eBay, which is called the Megapod T01. Interestingly enough, the Megapod people have actually released a T02 now. Because the T01 was overheating, and it looks like this model is actually based on the T01. So whether they fix the overheating problems, I'm not sure. But we will be getting one of these to review, so I'll be able to give you an idea of whether that's actually the case or not going forward. But it looks very useful. I mean, it's certainly. The idea of a PC you can hold in your palm of your hand is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, because there's an Intel branded one as well, isn't there? I think on Amazon. Because my father-in-law has been thinking about. We were thinking about just getting a one of the small Chrome boxes to attach to his PC, and I said, well, you'll find certain things that you can't do, and one of which was one of his uses he wanted to use it for was getting Skype on the telly. And obviously Skype's changing. It probably is going to be available on Chrome OS eventually. But I suggested this, the Intel one as an alternative, because all you've got to do is plug it into a HDMI port, a USB port for power. You can use it for streaming movies and all sorts. I think it would be a far more versatile solution, and not compared to a Chromebook, actually roughly about the same price.
Yeah, and the computer stick's about the same price as this one is now. There's been quite a lot of discounting on it, so it's interesting to see these things coming out. I mean, I think there's slightly more memory on this one than the base computer stick, but there's a lot of options out there. There's the J Bones Mini Smart PC computer stick as well, which is available. That has an authorized license. There's also Lenovo. Came into this market today. Actually, they announced their version of this as well. So this is going to be a really big area of products. Basically, I think that it's going to, and prices will be obviously forced down on this.
Competition,
etc. So, but I think, I mean, this is a great thing. I'm going to try it out and see if I can actually use it as an extender to something. I'm not sure which platform, media browser or something like that. See if I can get live TV running on it as a separate box. We're also, as well as doing the TDL review from that point of view, Fascinating Tech are going to do it from the point of view of taking travelling and seeing if you can use it in hotel rooms and stuff like that. Which would be quite interesting.
It just goes to show, doesn't it? Remember the time when flash drives USB flash drives got to the point where you could just carry one on your keyring.
Yeah,
and this is almost getting to that kind of stuff. You just literally just carry a PC around in your pocket.
Yeah, and I think the only real issue now is going to be heat dissipation as in that sort of size, and with the next generation Intel Atom processors, that becomes less of a problem. So I think that this is really going to be an interesting market over the next few years. How that expands. I mean, there are also other alternatives out there. I mean, the Acer Revo, which I really had played with at the weekend. I really like that. That's a very small box, but that, of course, you can start putting SSDs into and big hard drives into, and have a sort of a couple of terabytes, which would fit in your briefcase almost. slightly big, but certainly I know people who've carried those around to go on holiday with them.
Yes, yeah, they were very good tiny devices, weren't they?
Yeah. So.
Funny enough, that's where James Montemagno first sprang up from, wasn't it? He used to have the Revo PC website.
yes.
All that time ago for Media Center PCs.
Yes. Dear, those were the days.
Yeah, those were the days. Yeah.
Josh Pollard like to say every week, Media Center's still not dead,
and it's not. And this site tells us
no, absolutely, absolutely.
It's like the Monty Python. I'm not dead yet. As he's being dragged out to the cart. I'm still.
Just to clarify that, I'm of course talking about the Revo 1 here rather than the Revo that James was talking about.
Yes,
which is slightly different piece.
It'll be the old parrot sketch, wasn't it? Not this parrot's dead. This HTPC's dead.
Yeah.
Oh no, it isn't.
It's pining for Windows 10. But do I have to pay for an upgrade on it? I just can't work it out. So I'm not going to bother.
And what happens to the Media Center if I do an upgrade?
Oh yeah. Now, Gary, you mentioned you were on assignment the weekend, weren't you?
I was.
Acer, yeah.
Yes, you set a small challenge for me.
Yeah.
That was fun watching that. I kept an eye on that on Twitter. That was really good fun to watch.
It was quite fun doing it as well. I was wondering what Ian had let me in for. So this was basically a thing called Acer Live Blog, and it was a weekend that Acer arranged for and full disclosure paid for, to fly a group of us bloggers out to Dublin and put us up in a posh hotel and then set various challenges, which was quite interesting. But the whole point was to show off the latest tech. So they were showing off the Liquid Jade Z phone, the tablet they've got as well. It's just completely slipped my mind which model it is. I should find out while I'm talking to you. So this was the Iconia 1.8 they were talking about, and also to show us the new Switch 10e, which I'm really impressed with. I have to say that was a really good bit of tech kit. I think a step up from last year's Switch 10. Which I think we both quite liked, didn't we?
Yeah, I quite like the Switch 10e.
Yeah. So one of the problems with the Switch 10e, the original 10, was that it tended to fall over very easily.
That was right. Yeah.
They've changed the hinge slightly, so you can have it a bit more tilted forward, so it doesn't fall over quite so easily. You can have it in multiple colours now, and it's a bit more performance, so that's rather good. Anyway, so we turned up in Dublin, and gave a briefing, and they gave us out a couple of gave us a tablet and a phone to play with, and then they basically set us a load of challenges so we could try both the phone and the tablet out, particularly the phone and its camera, because one of the selling points of this phone is it's got quite high resolution camera and a very high aperture, which is for low light usage, so it's supposed to be able to take pictures in quite low light. So they sent us off the first evening to go and try this out. We've taken pictures of food, but they slightly added into that, and that we actually had to cook the food ourselves. So we went to the Cooks Academy in Dublin, which is a really interesting experience, where I learned how to make guacamole very effectively, and but really good crowd of people from all the different blogs and things, and sort of separated that into teams, and we were competing against each other, and I think the guacamole was sort of the top starter, although I have to say that the other team that was making hummus did a very good job as well. But that was all interesting stuff, and how making it and taking pictures of it as well, and along the way. And then we sort of split into teams and made some really impressive main courses as well, even though my team did manage to cook the tea towel. We did set it rather extremely on fire, having had a safety briefing saying don't use the tea towel near the flames. So we obviously didn't listen to that particular one, but it was a really good, interesting evening. I'd certainly recommend anybody goes out to Dublin and got spare time and wants to learn a bit of cooking, that course there is really good, and the guys who are running it certainly know their stuff. I thought I knew how to cook some of this stuff, and I certainly improved my cooking. So very, very, very well worth doing that. So that was one challenge, and so had the night, finished that, and then went back to the hotel. And then the next morning, it was sort of get up and meet for breakfast, and then trundle on off to a local sports club where we were going to be introduced to Gaelic games. Thanks, Ian. So this was basically the challenge. So the first game, quote in quotes, we were introduced to, although it wasn't really a game, was the Barham drum. We saw, you might have seen this written out as BOD HRUM, but it's pronounced Barham. So it's rather than Bodrum, as we were all talking about calling it before we got there, which is like a round drum sort of crossbar point. And we learned how to play that. And actually sounded quite musical by the end of that little training session, which surprised me. But after that, we got onto the serious matters of Gaelic games, and we had this ex-army guy who was teaching us how to play the three main Gaelic games, which are handball, which is like squash without rackets. And it's quite competitive on that. And then we moved on outside to have a go at Gaelic football, which is kind of like every ball sport you can imagine all mixed into one, and some skills you need to learn on that. And we sort of had a go at that, and that was quite fun. Take us video with the cameras and things like that. Hard work, because they were making us run up and down the field practicing all the skills. It's a real workout. Actually, my Pebble gave me four trophies that day for the number of steps I'd done. And then we went on to hurling, which is really difficult to explain, but basically involves hitting balls with sticks and hitting other players with sticks. It actually comes back from sword play, basically. Back in the day, it's mentioned way back in BC. This game is one of the oldest games in the world, but it's because they didn't want to practice with their real swords. They practiced with these hurling sticks or hurls. But we actually had a full-blown game of this, where somehow I managed to get the award for the best block. I just think I just fell over in front of the ball, really. But I tweeted some pictures of this, and it looks like modern-day gladiators with the helmets on, and carrying these wooden, well, plastic in our case, rubber hills, because they wouldn't let us play with the wooden ones because they were too dangerous for us children. But yeah, it's a really good game, actually. We got good going. Took up a few injuries occurred, dislocated fingers. I got a rather nice black toe out of it. So things I do for TDL. But again, it did show off the cameras on the JZ, which was really good for sports video. It actually was very quick to react, which is quite a good thing. Yeah. And then in the afternoon, we said we had further challenges to do, including taking the tablet to draw the River Liffey, and and this is an interesting tablet, this 118, in that it's actually got a high resolution drawing mode on it, which you can actually use a pencil to write on the screen, which is quite an odd thing. And I thought, well, use a pencil. I can understand the stylus, but pencil isn't going to leave graph. But they've got actually some surface coating on it, which stops it actually leaving marks behind, which is quite clever. The only problem I had really was I couldn't really see the screen while I was drawing because it was so bright sunlight. It didn't actually work particularly well in the daylight, which is probably my main complaint about that. And then it was finally back to the base to download all this video and pictures onto the Revo 1, which, as I said, really impressed me. That was, and I think it was the Core i5 one we were playing with, and that really performed extremely well. Make an excellent TV PC, basically.
Oh, sounds very good.
It was fun. It was fun, and I think there was a lot of fun had by all.
Yeah.
I did smile when I saw the burnt tea towel.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
That was really on flame. It was just a little bit. I mean, the end result picture doesn't look too bad, but it was definitely. Let's put this out quick.
Excellent. Well, I'll listen. I'll include the blog post, and the listeners can have a look at some of your pictures, and they can see you on Twitter. So, final we go then. So, when we're going to see the next build, Gary?
Thursday.
Jason?
Yeah, I'll go with Thursday.
I'm going Friday then, just to be different.
Actually, breaking news from Gabriel.
Oh yes.
He still hasn't tweeted.
Oh. Right, break exclusive. Well, on that bombshell, as Alan Partridge would say, we'll be back next week, Tuesday evening, 9 o'clock, maybe with a new build. You never know. And Gary, where's your Twitter?
At Gary with 2 R's, WMA.
And Jason, where can we find you?
And you can find me on Twitter at Database Jace.
And find you gloating if it's Thursday, and find me gloating if the release is Friday. Right, well, great, guys. Thanks very much. And it was good to be back. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Take care.